Thank you for coming along. We have a serious incident which the people of Salford and wider will be very concerned about, as we, the partnership here in Salford of the police, the council and the PCC and Greater Manchester Mayor Tony Lloyd. Let me introduce please myself first of all. I'm Ian Stewart, the elected Mayor of the City of Salford. This is Ian Hopkins, who is the Deputy Chief Constable and the Chief Constable elect, and this is Tony Lloyd, who is the Police and Crime Commissioner and the Greater Manchester Mayor in the interim period. So, we will address this with the seriousness that it demands, and we will try to answer the questions as they come. Can I hand over to Ian Hopkins, Deputy Chief Constable, to give a report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to start with a brief description of the incident last night and then make some wider points about the issues that we faced here in Salford. Around about 9:25 last night, we were called to Gillingham Road in Eccles, where it became clear that two men had gone to the door of an address in Gillingham Road and knocked on that door, which was opened by a 29-year-old lady and her 7-year-old son. It does appear that they were looking for somebody inside the address, and very shortly afterwards, from knocking on that door, around 3 shots were fired towards the woman and her son. The woman has received 2 gunshot wounds to her leg, and the 7-year-old boy, very sadly, has also received a gunshot wound to his leg. Both are currently being treated in hospital for very serious injuries. The men who carried out this attack are described as a white male, 19 to 20 years of age. He had stubble on his face and was fairly chunky in build. He was wearing a baseball cap and was described as having a local accent, and his speech was slow. The second man was very briefly described as being white and also wearing a baseball cap. Both men then ran from the scene. This is a sickening and cowardly attack on a 7-year-old boy and his mother at their home. The level of criminal recklessness is putting innocent people at risk, and this has to stop. The shootings that we have had are clearly part of 2 distinct feuds between organised crime groups here in Salford. One centres around the Little Holton area, and the second in and around the Swinton and Central Salford areas, which includes the murder of Paul Massey. We believe that the sickening events of last night are linked to that dispute around the Salford and the Salford area and the Swinton area. What I would say is that the vast majority of people that live in Salford are law-abiding citizens who are very proud of their city and will also be sickened by the horrific attack last night. However, there is still a core of people in Salford who are prepared to use firearms to threaten people and to sort out disputes between crime groups, and this is clearly putting the wider public at risk. I understand that people will be very concerned, and if they have information they should come forward and we will support them. Clearly people associated with these crime groups will have information, and I appeal to them to search their soul and come forward with what they know. This has to be the turning point, that people can no longer remain silent about organised crime here in Salford. We have been running a major policing operation for a number of months now here in Salford. This includes 50 specialist detectives supported by the National Crime Agency. We continually seek to take illegal firearms off the streets, and over 30 have been recovered since January, including 2 high-powered rifles only last week. This morning we made a further 7 arrests in relation to organised crime in Little Holton, and this is on the back of the 24 that we made last month, of which 22 people have been charged and many are remanded in custody. We have additional uniformed patrols and our tactical aid unit working here in Salford, and we now have 4 armed response vehicles dedicated 24/7 hours a day here again in Salford. We continue to deal with this threat in 3 ways. One is around the threats to life to individuals that we know that are at risk and the safeguarding of any children that may be associated with those families. The disruption activity that I've talked about, where we've been arresting members of the organised crime groups, and clearly the very complex investigation that is ongoing around all of the shootings and the murder. And we're clearly working very closely with our partners here at the City Council. I would ask, as I said earlier, for people to search their souls and to come forward with information to help us end these disputes, and particularly to help us detect the horrific incident that occurred last night. If people do have information, there's a dedicated telephone number, which is 0161 856 9775, or of course people can ring Crime Stoppers confidentially on 0800 555 111. Thank you.
Yeah, let me just say a few words to make. You've heard from Ian Hopkins, the Deputy Chief Constable, that there already has been a major police operation taking place in Salford. I emphasise that this has been going on now for some time. Obviously, last night's event, sickening as they are, will guarantee that that continues. The public will want to know that. The public will support exactly that operation by our police force, and certainly as Police and Crime Commissioner, that has my absolute support, so it will continue. I think the real message from this, though, is that there are people out there in the community who will know what took place. I think it's a matter of fact that the police have been hampered by silence coming from those who know in the past. We do need people to come forward. I can't believe that even those involved in the organised gangs in Salford would be anything other than sickened themselves by the dissent when we see not grown men involved in gangs, but a woman, a mother, and a 7-year-old child becoming the victims of the violence that has echoed around these streets in recent months. As the Deputy Chief Constable says, it is time now for people to examine the consciences and search the souls and recognise what they can do to put an end to this. I think for the wider public, there is a strong message that Greater Manchester Police will keep doing everything they can do to keep our streets safe for the ordinary law-abiding members of the public. That's an important reassurance. The regular policing in Salford will continue on the same basis as ever. There will be no diminution of police activity elsewhere. This is an extraordinary effort being made, and I'm grateful to the Deputy Chief Constable and to all those in Greater Manchester Police for the work that they are doing. But actually, in the end, it's up to people in the community who know what's going on to now come forward. They can come forward anonymously, they can come forward in whatever way they see fit. But actually breaking this wall of silence may safeguard young children, and we cannot let this sickening incident pass without there being effort on the part of the community.
Are you? Is there anything I want to say, Deputy Chief Constable? As a resident of Salford, as a parent and grandparent, this is sickening. This has taken crime, violent crime, to a lower level than we've ever seen before, and it is wholly and utterly unacceptable and will not be tolerated. As the Mayor of this city, I know that I, the PCC, Tony Lloyd, and Ian Hopkins representing the police, are responsible for finding a solution to make sure this never happens again. We have continuously, over the years, built a partnership approach. That partnership approach has actually been successful in bringing not only general crime down, but gun crime across Greater Manchester down. And we're seeing here a spike. And although it is our collective responsibility, and we will continue to exercise that collective responsibility through our partnership work, part of the solution, a big part of the solution, is the people of this city and wider. Someone out there knows who carried this sickening crime out, and we and the police need to know. That's the way to stop this. The way to not only minimise it, but actually move towards stopping it. And it must stop. We will continue in a realistic way to work through our partnership to minimise it, but the public have the answer in their own hands. So please, if you wish to speak to the police anonymously, call Crime Stoppers through the 0800 555 111 number. You've got the answer in the city of Salford. Help us to meet the solution, stopping gun crime in our city. Any questions, please?
Just Morris, BBC News, Chief Constable, you talk about having seized firearms, you talk about having made arrests. For a 7-year-old child to have been injured like this, is gun crime out of control again?
I would say not. I mean, clearly, as I said, it's a sickening and cowardly attack last night. You know, we are seeing increasing numbers of firearms discharges, and one is one too many. Absolutely not out of control. And you know, the amount of firearms that we're seizing, the amount of people that we're arresting shows that we are out there targeting those that are carrying out organised crime in the city. Clearly, none of us want to see any further rises in gun crime, and we're doing our absolute utmost to maintain that level of safety for the public.
How hard is it to believe that this line, the shooting of a young child, has been crossed here?
Well, I think any ordinary citizen, anybody in this room would say that deliberately opening fire on a mother and child has crossed the line. And I would even suggest that the criminals involved in this will recognise that they have also crossed the line, which is why I'm saying to people that they really need to search their souls and come forward with the information to help us bring whoever did this to justice.
Of course, this shooting happened just as you were announcing the £50,000 reward for information about the death of Paul Massey. Coincidence, or somebody just trying to give out a message to anybody who might be thinking of cooperating with you?
Well, I asked the same question of my colleagues this morning, Dave. The timing was very, very close. I don't think anybody would have been able to see the BBC programme last night and then have been able to carry out this attack. They were so closely timed. But it just does reiterate that we do need the public's help to come forward and give us information if people are prepared to carry out such horrific attacks.
Sorry, just one question. It's got extra officers in Winton. You said it's not going to diminish officers from elsewhere. Where are the officers coming from?
Well, we obviously have specialist officers across the force that we use all over Greater Manchester whenever we have the necessity through serious crime and major incidents. So we're bringing in specialist resources to do that. So clearly, whilst we can't use them in other areas, the priority is here in Salford. But the day-to-day levels of policing will go on across Greater Manchester as they normally do.
You've talked about life-changing injuries here. Just define that as far as this boy and his mum are concerned, particularly the boy.
I mean, clearly, a 7-year-old boy being shot in the leg is a serious injury. The hospital staff are looking at that this morning. I understand that he may well be facing an operation this morning, so I wouldn't comment any further on how serious those injuries are until the medical experts can tell us what they've found. Okay, if there's no further questions, then thank you very much.
If you are staying, there is